Welcome to the woods. My name is Matty, otherwise known as the Woodland Nomad, and today we're here to talk about dandelions. There's an awful lot to cover in this video, so we're going to get stuck in straight away. No faffing, no intro videos, let's just go. Dandelion. This plant is absolutely incredible and so misunderstood. The only place I can think that we still consume dandelion is in Dandelion Burgers. So first of all, I actually want to talk about how the dandelion is great for the environment. It actually has a deep taproot, which means its root drives right down into the soil, and because of that it helps draw moisture up, which in turn creates a much more habitable environment. And a great example of this, if you look at people's lawns during drought, people that have dying grass in their lawns, the lawns with dandelions in it, they'll be greener, guarantee it. Not only do these taproots bring up water, they bring up nutrients as well, which encourages other life. It brings worms and other insects, and also encourages more plants to grow. So the seeds of other plants are more likely to succeed. Now, one of the interesting things is that the dandelion opens up the soil for many other species, and those species will actually come in and push the dandelion out. And that's probably part of the reason that the dandelion seed evolved to travel such great distances. My very knowledgeable uncle said one of the best ways to think of dandelion is to think of the four elements. They are the earth because they live in amongst it and they improve the earth's quality, the soil quality. They are water because they bring water up from further down in the soil to closer to the surface. They are fire because they look like the sun and they absorb energy from the sun, and they're also connected to the air because it's the wind that carries the seeds into new areas and helps them spread. So the dandelion's ability to aerate the soil and bring more moisture into it makes it far more habitable, which can actually help rejuvenate areas of soil erosion. We should be really utilising the dandelion as a crop, not treating it like a weed. But anyway, that's how it heals the land. So how does it heal us? So the dandelion is a fantastic medicine and it is packed full of nutrition. It contains vitamins A, E, C, K. It's got minerals in it. It's got things like iron, potassium, manganese, riboflavin, which is just a word I love, calcium. And the calcium it contains is actually bioavailable, which basically means it's really easy for our body to digest. So one thing that the dandelion is incredible at aiding is the digestive system. It helps to stimulate saliva production, bile production, enzymes that help break down your food. Not only that, but the root also contains inulin carbohydrate, which has been found to have anti-inflammatory properties and is also a prebiotic. So the entire plant really is just phenomenal at aiding our digestive system. But it doesn't stop there, there's more. So the dandelion also aids our organs. It's a diuretic, which means that it helps flood lots of fluid through our liver and kidneys, which is a great way to cleanse and detox all the toxins that our bodies gather. It also contains compounds that help reduce the risk of heart disease by reducing levels of triglyceride and cholesterol, which are really bad fats that travel through your arteries. And they're a big cause behind heart disease and hypertension. The high antioxidant levels in the plant also help reduce free radicals. Free radicals are basically unstable atoms within the body. Our body naturally cleanses them out, but through the assistance of antioxidants, it helps that process even further. Now, if you end up with too many free radicals and they get a bit out of hand, they can end up damaging cells, which can cause cancer. You can end up with an arrangement of different diseases, and even speeds up aging. So, just all in all, bad times. You don't want free radicals. The more antioxidants you can get into your diet, the better. Still not finished, the dandelion is also great for the skin. It encourages collagen production and cell replacement and helps to hydrate the skin. And in fact, traditionally, it was used to cure warts. So just by snapping the stem, that milky sap that comes out, you could literally just dab it on a wart. And you would keep doing that repeatedly until the wart buggered off. And this isn't some old witch's tale. I have a family member who went to the doctors and he got creams and they didn't do anything. And then my grandma said, you know what? Use dandelion. And sure enough, it buggered off within a few days. So if you've got warts, go find some dandelions. Which is kind of funny because in cartoons and stuff, witches always have warts, but realistically, they probably knew how to use the dandelion, so they wouldn't have had warts at all. So it's also worth noting that that combination of the bioavailable calcium and the vitamin K means the dandelion is great for your bones. Because in order to have strong and healthy bones that repair themselves, you need both of those. So I have a reasonable understanding of dandelions, but when I was doing a bit of research, I found something that blew my mind. So basically, your gut bacteria and your gut biome is connected to your mental health. We've only really been figuring this out in recent years. But something super interesting about that is that they have found that 95% of your serotonin is produced in your gut, which is astounding. That means if you have a really unhealthy gut, if you're just living off of processed foods, processed sugars, bread, McDonald's, sweets, cake, all that kind of crap, your mental health is going to suffer, and I guarantee it. If you feel that you're in a depressive state, the first thing I would recommend you look at is your diet. We also produce 50% of our dopamine in our gut. So again, it's so important to have a healthy gut. Not only does it aid in your digestion, which means you're getting the most out of your food, but it's also going to improve your mental health. Not only that, when you go out in the woods or into the fields or whatever and you go picking them and you cook with them, you've been out in the wild, you've got a dose of vitamin D from the sun, it's just all around, it's going to make you happier. It's a phenomenal plant and I cannot rave about it enough. So what about the edibility of the plant? What's edible? Well, simply put, all of it. The root, as I say, is a carbohydrate. The stem is, I mean, it is edible, but it's bitter and disgusting and wouldn't recommend it. The leaves are packed with nutrition and they're edible. They're a little bit bitter, but quite frankly, I would take a dandelion leaf over some rocket, so they fit perfectly fine into a salad that you can eat at home, no problem at all. Once the flowers are up, a load of the nutrition has come from the roots and is now in the flowers. So the flowers are now packed full of nutrition and ready for harvesting. And there's an array of recipes you can do with them. I'm going to show you a recipe in this video of how to use the flower heads. You can use the petals as well, and I'll be showing you a recipe on how to use the petals. So in this video what we're going to do is we're going to go forage a load of dandelions. Now I'm going to be picking the entire plant because I have 3 different recipes to show you. I'm going to be doing one with the roots, one with the flower heads, and one with the petals. So let's start looking for dandelions. Now I'm sure you all know what a dandelion is, but just in case you don't, we'll do a really quick ID on this. We'll start with the leaves, because it's the reason it gets its name. So it has these really kind of jagged, lobed leaves, and it's called dandelion because they look like lion's teeth. The stem is kind of U-shaped and will produce sap. In fact, every part of the plant will produce sap. The roots, the leaves, and the stem. Very recognizable. Just think lion's teeth. So what about the flowers? Well, they're bright yellow and they have tons of petals. If my camera is going to show you, look how cute those little curls are. They're fantastic, like something off a Dr. Seuss. The dandelion flower is actually made up of many flowers. It isn't one single flower. These leaves on the underside, they're slightly bitter. So if you're ever making stuff with dandelions, you're trying to avoid them as much as you can. The more of this green material you include, the more bitter your meal's going to be. But some cooked dishes kind of cook the bitterness out. Then following down from the flower, you've got this really long stem that goes all the way to the ground. And it'll always be singular. If you have more than one dandelion head on one stem, as in it branches off, that's not a true dandelion. But this video is about the dandelion, so let's have a look. So if you break the dandelion stem, you'll realise that there's a sap being produced there. Very quickly that'll form. So if you've got a hollow stem, it secretes this white, milky, latex-like substance. You've got the dandelion. Also, depending on the time of year, you're going to see these buds. So these are the new flowers that have yet to open. This one is a good example because you can see its petals. However, later in the year, they will look like this again, but you'll notice that it's fluffy on the end. And that means it's going to seed. So I could actually pick this and eat this because this is full of petals and would be delicious. But if you picked one full of seeds, you're not going to have a good time, I promise you that. And that is probably one of the quickest and easiest IDs I've ever had to do. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go out there, because there are hundreds of them, and I'm going to dig up a load of these dandelions so I can get a hold of the roots. Now it's important to mention that I know this field. I know there's no cattle in it and there hasn't been for years, and the farmer doesn't spray pesticides or anything on it. He actually just leaves it to seed natural flowers and grasses and stuff, so it's the perfect place for collecting dandelions. Just found a wild edible at my feet. I'm under beech trees. So the seedlings actually send out the first 2 leaves, and they're delicious. They're actually really good. Although that one, that one's horribly dry. Anyway, I'm going to get to picking these dandelions. Super windy out here, so I really hope you can hear me, but I just wanted to show you a little something. So this plant, it doesn't look like a massive plant. I mean, that's the stem of it there. It seems pretty small, but watch this. If I peel away all this grass and dirt, look at the root on that. That's by far the biggest root I've found yet. That's a monster. So don't be judging a book by its cover. Initially I was going for the dandelions with the biggest flowers, And then I was going with the ones with the biggest like mass at the bottom. But this one just throws all that out of the water and resets the rules really. So I've come down to the old mill because it's a wee bit sheltered from the wind, and of course you can hear the river in the background. So I'm sorry about that. So my next step is going to be separating these dandelions into 3 components. Its roots, its flower and its leaves. So I've got these beautiful dandelions. They're wilting already just because of the heat today. And obviously it took me a wee while to pick these. It's probably out there an hour, hour and a half. But if you look at the full plant, you've got these jagged leaves, you've got multiple flower heads that come up. There's a couple buds there, a flower there. There's another bud right in the centre as well. And then you've got this long root. Now, these roots vary massively. They're a bit like knickknacks, but sometimes they have many pieces coming off the one root, which makes them really hard to forage in the sense that you're going to lose some of the root, but you just have to accept that. Some of them are really long, some of them are really fat. They really do vary a lot. So I'm going to separate these into the 3 components I'm going to be using: the root, the leaves and the flowers. So what I'm going to do is cut across the root at the base where it meets the greenery, so to speak. Like I say, just where the greenery turns into that nice brown root, that's where you want to cut it, just like that. So there we have the first piece of root. The most labour intensive part of all of this is actually washing these roots, so we're not at the worst bit yet, but we'll keep cracking on. So yeah, I'm going to put them into one of the bowls, and then what came off of that root is the rest of the plant. I'm not interested in the stem that's attached to the flowers, just the flower itself, so I'll be separating them so that it's just the flower and sticking them in one of the other bowls. Now for the leaves, they're a wee bit bitter, reasonable salad green, and you can cook them like spinach, but like I say, they are a wee bit bitter. But I will be collecting a good handful to go in a salad tonight. So I'm going to be kind of picky with the leaves, just picking the very best ones. As with most leaves, the younger the better. So these ones look alright, so I'll take a few of these. Now I absolutely hate waste, but you saw how many dandelions were up there. I don't need to eat all these leaves. There's no need for me to eat all these wilted leaves, so I don't feel bad tossing them aside in the woodland to decompose and be eaten by insects. So that's how you separate the plant into its 3 components. Now I'm going to crack on and sit here for, well, as long as it takes. Hopefully not too long, although, I mean, it's a beautiful, beautiful place to do this. I'll actually quickly drop some footage of this old mill because it's really cool, and then, yeah, I'm just going to have to crack on and get these done and then washed. All the roots off of all those dandelions. So the next step's going to be cleaning them up, and then it'll be roasting them. So as you can probably tell from my offcuts, it's wilting really fast. These leaves are already pretty, well, some of them are okay, but most of them are just mulching away already. But the flowers are definitely worth saving, so I'm going to go ahead and save them. I'm going to fill up my little coconut bowl with flowers, but I am going to just not bother with the leaves today. They're perfectly good in a mixed salad. You know, you wouldn't want to make an entire salad out of them, they're really quite bitter, but you could certainly use a combination of other leaves like primrose leaves and others that you might find at this time of year. Beautiful. That'll do for one of my recipes. I'm going to nip back to the van now and actually make one of the recipes because I'm hungry. So the first step with these is getting the bugs off. And one of the easiest ways to do that is to soak them in salted water. So I'm just going to put some salt into this water, drop them in and leave them soak for 10 minutes. That'll get all the bugs out, and then I can eat. So I did a wee bit of decorating, so excuse the paint covered hands. Won't be using my hands to make these patties. That's what we're making. Probably only one little burger type thing. So So just straining off those dandelions. So it's a dead simple recipe this. All you're going to need is a load of dandelion heads, probably a good handful. Just imagine it in burger size basically. So it depends how many burgers you're doing. Some flour and an egg, one for each burger. So let's go ahead and rustle this up because I am absolutely starving. So you're just going to keep adding flour slowly until it's a consistency that you can sort of work with and shape. I'm also going to season it a little bit. So I'm going to go with a little bit of garlic granules, some Cajun spices, a little bit of mixed herbs, some salt and a little bit of pepper. I think that'll do it. So it's worth pointing out that I'm still kind of in the middle of building my van. I've got dirty dishes to do, there's tools everywhere, but this is the reality of living in a van when you have to convert it. So if you see anything that's untidy and messy, then I do apologise. I've got such a massive to-do list to do at the moment. Dishes is on it, but at the moment I'm too hungry to care. So we're going to get a frying pan and then we're going to fry this and see how it fares. So a reasonable amount of oil. Just going to let that get piping hot. So I've scraped the mixture into a bowl. So I'm going to drop that into the hot fat and then spread it out. Make sure you keep it as one piece if you're making one burger. I actually used to be a chef, but that's kind of in the past. But it does mean I'm pretty good at just winging it and things turn out alright, so that's what I'm going to do. Might be a little bit early, but we'll give it a flip. You'll notice though as it cooks it starts to hold together well, so yeah, it's getting there. Now that I've flipped it I can press it a little bit flatter. Just raided my mum's garden for some greens. Got some primrose and some kale. It's getting there. Because my oil's smoking, I'm just going to bring the heat down a little bit. I think that's us there. Golden brown. Looking pretty good. And in my mind, no meal is complete without mayonnaise of some form. Health. It smells absolutely amazing. Let's give it the taste test. This is fantastic. The consistency is really good as well. It's like really soft and just falls apart. I mean, you can see all the petals there. And it's got a bit of heat from the Cajun. It's really good. Normally I'd have it in a burger bun with salad, but I've got a wisdom tooth that's still playing up, so I can't open my jaw wide enough to eat a burger. That is top. Solid 8 out of 10. Would eat again. So now it's time to clean these dandelion roots. I've popped them in a billy can and I'm going to give them a shake so that any loose soil falls to the bottom before we even get started. So this is the really boring bit, cleaning these up, because we obviously want rid of all of the dirt. I'm going to be using a nail brush because nothing better than rubbing toenails all over your food. I'm joking, it's absolutely brand new, never been used. You just need something that's brush-like, something coarse to get the soil off, and a load of water. So I'm going to bang them in, give them a good scrub, get them in my bowl, and see how clean they are. If I have to do a round 2, I'll do a round 2. The reason it takes so long is because of all the nooks and crannies. Like in there, you can see it's still pretty filthy, but the rest of it's pretty clean. I'll get this one scrubbed up, show you what one of them should look like, and then I'm just going to have to smash on and do the rest. It might not look very clean on camera, but the roots themselves do have like darker patches on them. That's not mud. That's basically as clean as I can get it. So I'm going to crack on and do that to all of these and get them all scrubbed up. What have I signed myself up for? Oh my god. I'm currently painting the van, like cutting in all the edges. It's honestly one of my least favourite things. Until I start doing these. Also, you can eat these raw. Let me clean this one a little bit better. But I wouldn't. Oh god, that's bitter. Ugh. Oh. Wow. That's awful. It's really awful. Don't do that. perfectly fine to eat, but just don't. You're never going to get all of the dirt off these, by the way. I have heard of people peeling them. How you peel that, I don't know. I don't know how you'd end up with anything left. I really don't. So I'm not interested in peeling them. Which does mean there's going to be some dirt left on them. It's impossible for me to get it all. When they've got like 5 groins each and you try to ram your bristles in their crotch and it's just not happening. Chris, if you eat processed food, there's an allowance for how many bugs you can actually have in that food. So I'm not that worried about a little bit of soil. And because it's going to be roasted, any bacteria or viruses or anything like that that might be in the soil is going to be burnt to a crisp. It's going to die off. Can't possibly survive without any moisture and in high temperatures, especially for a prolonged time. Anyway, I'm going to continue scrubbing away. I've got dishes to do and I'm here scrubbing dandelions instead, but hey, this is what my life's like. I am complaining, yes, but when it comes time to actually drinking it, I won't be complaining anymore because I'll have some lovely dandelion root coffee, which is super medicinal. And here's a fun one for you. There's a conspiracy theory behind dandelions. So supposedly there's a company in America that makes a heart medicine, and it's one of these medicines you have to take a pill every week or every day. I'm not 100% on the exact medicine, but the company that has patented it and makes a fortune off of it, supposedly one of their subsidiary, is that the right word? One of the companies that they're involved with or own actually produces Roundup, which is designed to kill dandelions. So there's a wonderful conspiracy that dandelions being exceptionally good for heart health, that the company that creates the toxin to kill them also used them to create the medicine that they then patented. The point is, you can get wonderful heart medicine straight from your garden, straight from the ground. Screw you, Big Pharma. I've had some pretty funky shapes in these roots, but this guy's my favourite. He's actually got a set of legs, arms and a head. But anyway, I'm done. Thank. Not the most fun. Don't plan on doing it again anytime soon. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take a pair of scissors and cut them down into smaller pieces. When I roast them, the more surface area, the quicker they're going to dry. If I leave them whole, it's going to take a hell of a lot longer. Also, because you're making coffee with them, you're going to want to grind them down, so having them small, it's not really going to be a problem. It's going to be more beneficial than anything. So I'm going to use a pair of scissors and just cut them into tiny little bits. So I have this beautiful stove that I could dry roast them on. But because I'm currently parked outside my mum's while I get the van ready for my adventure this year, I'm going to use their Ove. Ove? What the fuck's an Ove? I'm going to use their oven. Stove. They've got a log burning stove and they've got it on at the moment to heat the water. So I might as well use the energy that's already been used and get them banged in on an oven tray. Just to recap, I'm going to chop them down into little bits and I'm also going to rinse them again just because the water that they were coming out of is quite filthy. It'll just be surface soil now, it's not going to be in the grooves and stuff. So I'll give it a quick rinse on an oven tray, no oil, banged in the oven, and then they'll go in for as long as it takes. But I don't know, it depends on how thick your roots are, how small you cut them up, it's variable. The oven's only on about 100 degrees, which means that they're not going to roast, they're going to dry. At the moment I'm making dry dandelion, which is dandelion tea, but we will take this all the way and roast it and turn it into coffee. So they've been started off in the wood stove, but the stove's off and they're still relatively damp. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to roast them on my fire in the van. I'm just going to load them all into my billy can, then I'll get my stove on and I'll just sit it on top. If the roots are getting too hot, then I can simply just raise my billy can up slightly so that it's got a little less heat in it. We're getting there. It's definitely sounding a lot drier. It's going a lot darker. It's proper roasting now. Making coffee. Probably not far off. It's still a little bit squidgy, so there's definitely still moisture in there. So I'm just going to keep shaking it and roasting it on the fire. Good morning. Well, last night I kept shaking my coffee every 10-15 minutes until it was rattling crispy dry and pretty dark and smelling roasted. So I've officially made coffee. I'm going to start my day with a dandelion coffee. It's worth noting that this coffee is absolutely caffeine free, so it's not necessarily going to wake me up, but I have only just woken up and you shouldn't actually have caffeine within the first 90 minutes of waking up, so it'll be a nice substitute and a good brew to get me going. So if you live in a house, the best way is to use a coffee grinder and get it down into a nice fine powder. But for me, I'm going to have to use my tiny little pestle and mortar, which might take me a little while. That's the sound you want to hear. Lovely and toasted. And absolutely cracker dry, which is essential. So, I wasn't kidding around when I said I had a tiny pestle and mortar. I'm going to give it a good crush and see if I can't get it down into a nice powder. By the way, that's not mould. That's just potato starch from last night, but I haven't got around to washing my dishes yet. So I've got my tiny hand-whittled scoop here that I used to make my coffees in the morning with real coffee. So what I'm going to do is use that as a gauge. I am managing to get this powder quite fine, which is good because it shows just how dry that coffee is. And I'm going to fill that up and then maybe do slightly more because it's not quite as strong as actual coffee. Oh, could you hear the swallows in the background there? It's absolutely amazing actually. The swallows arrived 2 days ago and they arrived on that exact same day the year before. How they can plan that and navigate all that way to land at the exact same days the year before, it blows my mind. So I'll look at my door to see where the swallows might be, and on top of the truck next to me, hi! What are you doing up there? It was originally called Fatboy Slim, but I just call him Fatty because he's massive. Let's make coffee. Now, just like real coffee, you should never pour boiling water onto your coffee, otherwise you're going to scald it and make it bitter. So I'm going to let that sit for just 30 seconds, 45 seconds, something like that, before I add it to my beautiful dandelion coffee. It smells excellent, by the way. Now we wait. Probably, I mean, with normal coffee, you'd wait, what, 3 or 4 minutes? With this, I'm going to wait longer. I'm going to try and get every single bit of goodness out of this coffee. And I'm even going to make 2 brews. The second one is never as good, but with the amount of effort that goes into making this coffee, I'm getting 2 cups out of this. But yeah, I'll probably leave it for maybe 5 minutes. Any longer and I might end up with a cold coffee, so. I'm going to have a teaspoon of honey in mine, because that's how I like my coffee. Let's do the plunge. Now it has all sank to the bottom, so I'm actually going to use the plunger to sort of try and pull it up from the bottom into the fluid a little bit. See there? You do run the risk of getting some bits in your coffee, but I don't really care. Excuse the duck lady in the background, I don't know why that's the branding for that oat milk, but it is. Oh, it's a nice colour, and it's a fantastic smell. It sounds silly to say it smells like coffee, but it really, really, really smells like coffee. It's got a proper hazelnutty, chocolatey smell too. Let's head out into the woods and drink this, somewhere nicer. It's also actually my birthday today, St. George's Day, April 23rd. There's a fantastic mushroom called the St. George's mushroom, purely for the fact it comes out around this time of year, but I've never been lucky enough to find it in Scotland, which is a bit of a shame. But I have my wonderful dandelion coffee to have in this beautiful woodland. It was raining just seconds ago, and look at it now. Cheers. I mean, I've had that before, but wow, that brings back, like, it's almost nostalgic. And technically last year it was my mum that did all the effort in foraging and gathering and washing. So how does it taste? If someone came around to your house and says, oh, I'll have a coffee please mate, and you put that down in front of them, they would turn to you and they'd say, oh, that's delicious, what brand's that? I'm not kidding, it tastes just like a coffee. Oh, all that effort, worth it immediately. That is so, so delicious. Like, there's a lot of wild edibles where I'm like, yeah, it's alright, that's palatable, it's not bitter. This is fantastic. One, because it is slightly bitter, but coffee is bitter. That's the whole vibe of what coffee is. This is not going to last long. It's got a proper chocolate hazelnut, almost caramel kick. I mean, it'll be the honey that makes it taste like caramel by sweetening those flavours, and it is proper earthy, and I don't mean like an unwashed tatty, just like proper tasty, delicious. Oh god, it's good. So unfortunately my third favourite thing to do with dandelions is actually to use the petals to make a honey, or more specifically a syrup. But the clouds keep rolling over and all the dandelions aren't open, so I can't really get the petals. When you're collecting the petals for honey, you really don't want those green bits that are around the flower. They're a little bit bitter and they ruin the honey basically. I have however done this in the past on a TikTok video, so you'll have to excuse that it's only going to be a third of the screen right now, but I'm going to insert my TikTok video which shows you exactly how to make the honey. Let's get picking, we need lots. I'm trimming the petals as this is the part we want. Only collect in places where chemicals haven't been used. Remember to leave plenty for the bees. Don't collect from parks or near main roads as they will have likely absorbed pollution and toxins. I've collected around 500 milliliters. Add them to a pan and add 500 milliliters of water. A quick stir and add 3 slices of lemon. Bring to the boil, then simmer for 30 minutes. Turn off heat and steep for 2 to 3 hours, then strain. Return it to the heat. Slowly add a cup and a half of sugar, then reduce down to runny syrup. Once cooled slightly, pour into a sterile jar. Quick quality check, then put it somewhere to set and use it just like honey. So there you go, that's some of the top ways I love to use the dandelion. And trust me, there are many recipes. There's so many other things you can do with dandelion heads and the petals, but we're going to have to leave it at that because this video is probably already getting on a bit. I do apologise for inserting a TikTok video. I know it might seem lazy, but it's more that I just can't get the dandelion petals. They're not out. And that's the way that foraging goes. You can't always get what you want. But there should be enough information in that to show you how to make dandelion honey nonetheless. Honestly, you should get out there. These plants are around all spring and all of summer. Even when they seed, they'll have other ones that haven't seeded yet. So get out there, harvest them, and make some coffee or make those little burger patty bread things that I made, because they are legitimately delicious and so full of nutrition, it's ridiculous. Thank you so much for watching guys, and I'll catch you in the next one.